Guys, we have to talk to you about the Smash conference in Las Vegas in October. I've got Bailey Beeken. She founded the conference. She's one of the most amazing thought leaders in the industry. We are going to have a great conversation about the conference, about all things sales and marketing in senior living. But first, this. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. Bailey, welcome. I don't know that we've ever done this before, which seems weird to me. Surely we have, but I don't know.
I feel as though we have, but I've watched many of yours. So maybe I feel like I've been on through that. But like, as I had said earlier, we've been together so long. We've been in many different forums and worked together.
That's right. I've been to every single Smash that you've ever held. Although the one you did last year conflicted with another conference in the same town. And I was only there for a few hours, but made every one. I'm kind of proud of that. But there aren't many people who can say that.
That's true. That's true. Yes, Aka had to change at the last minute. We were sad about that. We love Aka, and we love our Aka participants.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but let's start, just in case somebody doesn't know who you are, doesn't know what Smash is. Talk to me a little bit about you and Smash.
Okay, great. I'm Bailey Beeken. I'm the managing director of what the long title for Smash is, the Senior Care Marketing and Sales Summit. We have created a community of sales and marketing executives, leading sales and marketing executives in not just sales and marketing, but strategy and revenue development, across the spectrum of both customer acquisition as well as revenue. That community is now about 550 providers. And we predominantly, I would say 90 to 95% of our attendees and participants are from larger provider organizations, both in the nonprofit and the for-profit sector. So we have over 45 sessions, 7 workshops, keynotes, you name it. So, and a lot of downtime where people could just relax and talk to each other. And sometimes I swear we could get rid of all the content and people would just talk to each other and they'd get just as much out of the conference. But it takes a lot of time to do the content. So I hope that counts too. But anyway.
Yeah. And a new location this year?
Nope. We are back at the JW Marriott. Thornton Spa in Las Vegas. And again, the dates are May 5 through 7, thinking next year already, October 5 through 7. We have a new event launching next spring, which we'll talk about. But yeah.
That is exciting. So one of the things that I know is unique is that you have a lot of people who are from outside the industry who do presentations. So why don't you talk to me a little bit about what your thinking is there and why you do that?
Sure. I've been doing events for a long time, and I started actually in senior living. Smash started almost 14 years ago now, believe it or not. But prior to that, I was with Lincoln Healthcare for a few years and have worked in many, as I said, different industries. So I've seen a lot of different models. And one of the things that struck me in particular when I decided to launch Smash was it was 2014, and there was a tremendous amount of technological change going on. Digital advertising was really kind of just starting. Websites were up and running, but, weren't capturing all of the information that we're able to garner today and all of that. And I knew for myself that, I needed domain experts, topic experts, authors, TEDx people who really knew what the cutting edge implications and ideas behind a lot of this technology. So I made a commitment at that time to say 80% of our speakers will be from outside the industry, because what tends to happen in associations, and it's not specific to senior living or senior housing, is you end up with a feedback loop, kind of with the same people who are doing the job and not being able to see up and over that. And really, I felt what we could bring to the community. We didn't have a vertical market conference like that for just sales and marketers. And what little was being done in the associations, who are very often our partners in a lot of different ways of just, helping because they really like what we do. And they have a lot of other team members to serve in their association. it gave them an opportunity to really get the best of the best, the experts of the experts to learn what was happening. And again, very much in 2014, really even through 2018, so much was happening technologically that there really was a lot where we needed experts.
So let's talk a little bit about sales and marketing in the industry right now. And then I want to talk specifically about some of the featured sessions you have.
Sure.
But right now, I think this is probably true for you as well, but in my entire career in the senior living industry, from an sales and occupancy standpoint, the industry is better off than it's ever been. Still clearly some operational things. So I guess I'm going to ask the most basic question. Since things are already so healthy, why do I even need to go to Smash or have some of my people go to Smash?
Well, I think it's a few reasons, really. Occupancy has increased dramatically. I mean, from the pandemic when people were in the 70s, which was, like scary for everyone and terrifying, and then slowly crawled back till today to be really many or above in the 90s, if not even fully occupied for 25 days or better. But what happened because of the pandemic, and we have begun to talk a lot about this, and we'll talk more about it in our new spring conference, is that occupancy doesn't necessarily equal revenue health for the organization. Yeah. They had to do a tremendous amount of discounting, and so there's that to be thinking about. And when you think about that, no matter how you think about that, whether it's adding additional revenue through call it new product development within a community or within an organization, or it's billing in a different way, or any number of ways that revenue can be created, all of that has to be communicated, whether it's communicated beforehand, during, after, and all of that communication starts with marketing, right? So, and also managing waiting lists. It's a huge part of maintaining revenue, because, as I said, a lot of them are 95% occupied, but they've got 26-day gaps. Yeah. Right. So every day of those gaps, there's so many things that go around the why of it. It would be great if everyone could sit back and say, hey, our job is done at 95%, but it really isn't, because the organizations themselves are not as healthy revenue wise as they can be. And also it's an ever changing market, and there is a lot of building going on. So not everybody's at 95%. So that's right. A lot of reasons why Smash, again, when we bring in outside speakers to talk about things like that, wow, we thought we had it cornered, and not now, but what we realized was there's a lot of gaps that we continue to have to fill. Sales and marketing is a role in any organization that really never goes away, because it's a communication tool with the outside world.
Yeah, no question about that. And the other thing I would say is, I don't know whether you have any sessions on this, but I do know there are a number of operators who've actually figured out ways to leverage their wait list for additional revenue opportunities by creating clubs and that kind of thing. So
yes, we do have a session particularly on that, and some of our other sessions will touch on that. Also trying to break down some of the barriers between each silo, whether it's operations, billing, clinical. I mean, we are a sales and marketing event, but this idea of revenue really falls very squarely in the lap of both sales and marketing, right? Marketing seen more as a cost center, sales as obviously the revenue generator, but actually it takes all of these departments in today's world at 95% to find real new revenue, right? So, there's that. And also in the environment that we're in, which is the no-click environment, which is getting increasingly complicated and difficult. And it's in some ways it's swung back to, content was really big. I'm sure you remember this, 2014 to like 2019 is all we talked about. And then it kind of like everyone thought they had it. And now all of a sudden it has to be talked about all over again, because you're not picking up the content that's being picked up by algorithms. It's not being picked up in the same way, right? So, that messaging, that messaging that's out there has to continue to be out there and shifted slightly depending, again, on what's happening within communities and organizations and how they want to message that out. So, yes, we talk a lot about, finding the revenue you already have, or why more leads isn't always the right answer anymore, right? That's not necessarily what, stop chasing the leads, kind of the missing middle, right? The missing strategy between inquiry and move-in. Yeah. All of it, we really, we try and find the riches and the niches, right? The riches and the niches.
So talk to me a little bit about the sessions that you are expecting to have the biggest impact, the ones you're excited about, maybe new speakers or old speakers that are just crushing it. I mean, I know they're all going to be great, but honestly, there are always some that are just like, oh man, I can hardly wait for this.
I would say it's a little bit of a hard question to answer because but not impossible. Only because I get excited about everything, as you know, Steve.
Yep.
But I would put it into a couple of different categories, right? Okay. So one of the categories that we always look at is how far down in the weeds can we go, because so many of sales and marketing executives, particularly marketing executives in senior housing, use multiple agencies. So they're not pulling all the levers. They're really working with the agencies on the strategy. But there is some weed pulling that has to happen in there, not too far down. So it's things like looking at data around things like we have a session called the metrics trap. The wrong KPIs are costing you your move-ins, right? So we're still finalizing the speaker on that, but so I can't give the name yet. But it's I think it's a really important, it always is an important thing, is to look at the KPIs and what you're missing, what what you're not seeing, and what's between the lines. So I'm a data freak, so I like all of our data sessions. That's what I'm looking forward to. I think on our keynote area, I think we've got two great keynote speakers. I just want to get to the first one. That's going to, again, there's still very much, again, because of this content issue, right, where the algorithms are going to pick up different things. So we always usually try and have a behavioral psychologist or psychodemographics or things around that arena. And the keynote on the second day is, you're not the hero, make it easy for clients to say yes. And it's a wonderful speaker named Melina Palmer, who is, again, a kind of a psychographics expert. And while we don't have the salespeople in the room, we do have the sales executives in the room. And she'll be talking about how we often, everybody there knows everything about sales. I don't need to tell people there how to sell, or even how to tell teams how to sell. But what we do forget sometimes is that to make our clients the hero, right, of the story, because it's all about the story. People don't buy things in senior housing. They're buying a story. And so she'll be talking about that. And then actually on our last day, for the last 2 years, we've been having this really exciting session done by Lacey Youngman and a team of her colleagues that she chooses, which is 45 ideas in 45 minutes. And it sounds really simple, but I will tell you, we had over 290 people in her room last year. I mean, wow. People loved it. And so we've chosen to do that for our final general session, and we're still firming up our opening keynote. So that's going to be really fun and really exciting. We're trying something new this year. We use our board for everything. I want to say 15-member board who is terrific and wonderful. And it's just, without them, we do not have Smash. And we meet with them yearly, but also regularly. And they really wanted to have a closing session where everyone left in the closing. And we often have easily 200 to 250 providers who haven't yet taken off and gotten on a plane to go home. Yep. And to really be able to architect a format where we can have a panel who has focused on a specific area of Smash, a sales executive who's gone to a number of sales sessions, a marketing executive who was really particularly interested in SEO and content. And through that, there will be some kind of interactive piece to a 45-minute session that will help people wrap up what they might have missed and get crib notes for like, ooh, I didn't hear that. Oh, that's a great idea. So we hope to use that as a finalized session. We're excited about that. But in terms of the specific session, again, the keynotes are great, but I would really encourage people to go to seniorcaremarketingsummit.com to look at, again, the more drill down sessions. And we tried to stay away from AI specific, because so much of AI is now built into everything we do, and talk a lot more about how is it serving you? How is it, how are you and your staff interacting with the wide variety of AI that is available through a lot of the programs and applications, the SaaS they use. So, and that pertains to content, to digital and data, buying, purchasing of ads, the way that they're doing their metrics, toe to toe with the CFO when they're doing their budgeting. So we have, comp plans, training, sales training. And there's a lot of sales training now that's done through AI, which is, spectacular. I mean, the granularity that you can get to, not just even specific salespeople, but what really works. What are the words that work? And again, to tie that whole idea together, and then we can move on, is that more than ever, although I've been a big proponent of this since the beginning, is really sales and marketing has to work together. So now with a lot of the AI sales training, where things are being listened to and interpreted, and you can get broader concepts, what words seem to be working for people, what ideas, what concepts, what's resonating writ large. That information from sales calls, both in person and on the phone, can now be shifted back up to marketing to help with their overall messaging for their particular organization, depending on what they want to do. And so we're doing quite a bit on how to work together in a more holistic way.
Cool. Talk to me a little bit about the networking opportunities. You sort of touched on it a little bit, that you could almost run a conference where you didn't do any presentation and just have people sit down and have conversations. I'd like to have you talk a little bit about what it's like, and maybe give a little bit of wisdom about how to maximize your networking time.
Sure. So one of the things I encourage anyone who's coming to Smash is come to if it's your first time, come on the very first morning. We have a welcome breakfast for newcomers. We have usually over 150 people there to help, and our board is there to help them understand how to best navigate Smash. The networking we have, so we don't have an exhibit floor. Not every exhibitor has a particular space in place, and that's just the way Smash grew up. And I say that to say that it's not as cut and dry as a typical trade show where you go to the sessions and the floor is open for X time, and you meet the few vendors you may want to see and talk to, and et cetera, where it's a much more fluid environment. And so I encourage people that, the in between the sessions chatter, we try and keep between 15 minutes and a half an hour within a big networking area where there's generally food and drink and, and easy places to sit down and chit chat, whether it's with vendors or with colleagues or people you don't know. We encourage you for that, is to, is to just ask, especially all of our sessions typically are at round tables. We hope you've introduced yourself to each other. We have a program that promotes that. We start with Birds of Feather, which is just small, 10 people around a table talking about a particular topic. So if you didn't know anybody before you walked in that door, after that Birds of Feather, you have 2 friends, right? So just keep multiplying the friends. So there's a lot of those, what we call kind of activation networking points, where it's really about who's the person you're sitting next to and across from, so that you can see them. I'm not a believer in just back of the head kind of sessions where you're just sitting looking at the back of the head of somebody. And then we have some more fun stuff. We have an opening night reception. And again, but hopefully the way that Smash goes, by the opening night, you've had multiple opportunities to be sitting with people and shaking their hand and saying hello. And I will say sales and marketing people have very little problem doing that. So by their opening reception, that's just a nice way to end a long day. And Our solution partners are very happy to be taking people out to dinner and making sure that there's fun stuff going on. They do everything from special events in Vegas to taking them to, some of the latest and greatest things that are open in Vegas. So that can be a lot of fun. And then Tuesday has become a tradition of Twinkle Tuesday, where everyone has to twinkle, whatever that looks like for them, and which has gotten bigger and better in every year. And it's really helpful in networking because it's in our industry we call it an icebreaker, right? So you see someone in a fabulous sequin gown, you're going to talk to them about that sequin gown. And the next thing you know, you're talking about what you're doing at work and what's new for you and what's working and what's not. The bar is always full in the evening. I like to say that some of the biggest aha moments for many of our attendees have come from sitting at the bar, as in many conferences. And we also do what we call cocktail connections. So a number of our solution partners on the second evening on Tuesday have private. We have suites that go up many floors, 6 to 8 to 10 suites that have themed cocktail parties going on, and they're open to everybody. And we list them so that anybody who wants to go can. And it's a mess, and it's hot, and it's very crowded, but everyone loves them. Another opportunity to just get to know the people that you're with. We also have Brooke Sellis and Christy Vanderhausen have a book club. I'm sure you're aware of it. Sales and marketing. So we invited them last year to come. They did 2 mornings in a row, really early, because that's all we could fit them in. We really wanted them there. We were like, so 15 people will show up. Well, the room was like 60 people each day. And they didn't read a whole book, but they looked each day at some of the books that they had read over the year with the people who joined them online, and pulled out some of the most interesting pieces of that, some of the most interesting conversations. And so yet another way to sit with somebody who you don't know, or sit in a room with people you don't know and hear new ideas that you wouldn't otherwise hear. It's not a session, but what a great, you got 200 people on each one of their live streams, and you're hearing the best of that without having gone all year. So, we really keep trying to find ways to make sure that people are talking to each other. And there's a million ways. So,
and those relationships are often the most important, because they're people where you're struggling with something or you're wondering about something. You can pick up your phone and go, "Hey, can I have a conversation?" Interestingly enough, just by happenstance, through LinkedIn just this morning, I got messages from 2 people saying, "Hey, I'm working on this thing. I could use your input." And so I've got 2 calls set up for later in the week to address those. And it's really that those relationships and those friendships are so important. And so many of those have started at Smash and have deepened at Smash. And so I'm super, super excited about being there. Can hardly wait to see you there. Everybody, if you are in sales and marketing, actually, even if you're in leadership, you ought to be there. So I know in years past, you've sold out. Is that going to be a problem this year?
We're not there, but we're almost there.
Okay.
Still hotel rooms, not in the main hotel, but in the hotel next door, the Suncoast. So we've still got plenty of rooms there. And, we're probably 100 shy or so of selling out the event itself. It is a smaller venue, so we are limited by wall space, unfortunately, and contracted there for a bit. I'd love to take 1 minute to just talk about our new event launching next in 2027, if I may. So as I said earlier, how we began this whole discussion is that we now have an industry where we're almost oversubscribed. Not everybody, but a lot of organizations have a lot of their communities at 95%. And what they have found is, again, occupancy is an equaling revenue. So I began to dive into that idea. Again, this was all, kind of through their board meeting and through conversations that we had, that this was a challenge across the board. These are all senior leadership. They're at the C-suite table. This is what they're hearing. And because they are sales and marketing, they're charged with why not more revenue? They've just, they discounted when they had to. It's hard to make that up because they still have people there, but it really needs to be looked at across the organization. And I found a kind of a very niche, outside our industry, but niche consulting industry about revenue health. And they work with Southwest Airlines and American Express and any number of large organizations and medium-sized organizations. And it's not just one or two people. It's kind of got its own gestalt about how to bring silos together to talk about where are we leaving money on the table? How can we create more revenue opportunities across the organization? Not just nickel and diming. I mean, really trying to find real revenue opportunities that will stick and make sense in today's world. And I think that senior living, I think we've both discussed, it's been around a long time. They have their ways, but the pandemic really put a stop on everything. Like in terms of trying new things, like they were just trying to get through and then trying to get out of the 72% full hole.
Yep.
And now they have a whole new customer that's now kind of being around for the last few years, right? The baby boomers are really moving in, or the oldest of the baby boomers, and they want different things, and they're willing to pay for different things, and they're willing to for a different experience, and that really hasn't been looked at and discussed. So we're hoping this is going to take place next year, I believe April 4 through 7 in Nashville. It's going to be limited to only 125 participants. We hope obviously to get our sales and marketers in the room, but COOs, CFOs, some of the capital partners, because they're in more and more, they're in revenue sharing contracts versus just real estate contracts. So that really changes the revenue pressure in a very big way, as well as some CEOs, depending on the size and scope of their organization, to hopefully give them a blueprint and a way to move forward to think about how they can organizationally set up ways in which to have these conversations throughout the year to continue to fill those revenue gaps. So I'm very excited about it.
Cool. That sounds like that could be really interesting.
So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, that sounds very, very intriguing to me. So I like that a lot. Bailey, thanks. This has been a great conversation. Looking forward to being in Las Vegas to attend Smash, and glad I can just be there and be totally dedicated. One of the things that we've started doing, Jada, who is producing, helped me with this at Select, is we did a lot of short street interview kinds of questions, and already, I'm envisioning, standing outside with the camera on that last session of 45 things in 45 minutes and just asking people what they're going to put in places. And so I'm really, really excited about being there. It'll be great, great fun. And the links, we'll put the links to the registration. We'll put up one more quick time there. They're also in the chat. You can find them there. And so I look forward to hanging out with you guys when you're there. Love to do some video with you. And Bailey, thanks again.
Always. And Steve, can't wait to see you. We love having you at the event. So can't wait to see you there. Thanks so much. Thanks for your time.
Great. And thanks, Jada, for producing.
Thank you, Jada.